From the time Hallie died in the most tragic way, to Otis's surprising last words in the hospital. Here are 10 of the most heartbreaking scenes from Chicago Fire ranked, starting with Hallie's death. When I met Matt Casey for the first time, he was going to marry Hallie Thomas. Even though Matt and Gabby had much in common, neither of them really made a move. His relationship with Hallie was good, but it had its problems. Still, we grew to love Matt, and it was too much for us to see him hurt after she died. It could be why the writers put Matt and Gabby together so quickly. Hallie only appeared in season 1, but her death set the tone for the rest of the show. Nobody was safe. During the investigation, they found out that Hallie had been killed because she'd seen a drug deal at the clinic where she worked. The fire was meant to hide it, but Matt found her quickly enough that her body wasn't too badly burned. What made her death heartbreaking was how she suffered because she saw something she wasn't supposed to. Something similar happened to this next character just because he trusted someone too much. Of course, we're talking about Herman getting stabbed. Christopher Herman could be strange and scary at times, but he had a good heart in the end. In season 4, Joe Cruz became friends with Freddie, who had a lot of problems. Otis and Herman decided to offer Freddie a job as a busboy at Molly's because he was no longer welcome at the firehouse. Herman kept making jokes about how he looked all the time. Freddie told Herman that he doesn't like the joke, but Herman refused because he didn't know how serious the situation was. Cut to Herman lying in a pool of blood after Freddie stabs him with a steak knife. Being murdered is one thing, but there are times when life just doesn't seem fair. And that's how Rebecca Jones felt when she committed suicide in a heartbreaking scene. When she was young, she wanted nothing more than to become a firefighter like her father and brother. But her father thought he couldn't stand up and take this. Rebecca didn't know that the real fight was just beginning, as she fought to become one of the first women firefighters. When she first moved into House 51, Rebecca didn't fit in. When she did, her father told Matt and Chief Bowden that they could lose their jobs if they didn't put Rebecca where she belongs, behind a desk. Bowden told her he wouldn't do that, but it was too late. Her mind was already hurt. Rebecca would go home, write Gabby a note, and then that was that, unfortunately. At least there was some build-up to her dying. We didn't even get to say goodbye to this next character when there was no farewell for Connie. She did more than help Chief Bowden in his job. Connie's wit, sense of humor, and directness kept the house together, but the death of actress Dushan Monique Brown forced the writer to do it, and no one ever really got a chance to say goodbye. Even worse than that was the fact that the house just wasn't the same anymore. Connie was one of the best things about a place where people often laugh and cry. She was the kind of person who'd give you advice whether you wanted it or not. Being separated by death and choosing to leave are both very painful experiences. This next couple is one that the Chicago Fire fans had been dying for, which is why their parting broke us. The last time we saw Gabby and Matt, there was always a spark between them, and even though they had many problems, I still cheered for them, but there was always something wrong. Neither of them could really figure out what was going on, which is why Gabby ran away to Puerto Rico, but she came back in season 7, and for a short time, Matt thought she was there to stay. Gabby still showed her selfish side when she didn't have to, which made this hard to watch. She knew that what she did broke his heart, but in their last scene together, she didn't seem very sorry. They were still important characters on the show.
Congratulations to both of you. I mean, it's the greatest thing in the world.
Thanks, Chief.
We're not going public yet.
Yeah, of course.
We thought
No one expected this next person's death to hurt because she wasn't a main character. Now, here's another heartbreaking moment. The time when Anna died. People cared about her death because they liked Kelly Severide. Severide was a bachelor who fell in love with a woman he thought he'd been given a second chance at life. We didn't know, and neither did he, that time would be short. When Anna's health problems came back, Kelly's pain was only a matter of time away. Anna left this world with Kelly by her side until the end. She left Severide and her fans with broken hearts. It was a classic case of a boy meeting a girl, losing her, finding her again, and then losing her for good. Anna said all the right things, but in the end, the man whose job is to save people couldn't save the one person who needed it the most.
Hey, why aren't you guys helping her? Do something.
Can't.
Forget the DNR. I know her. I know.
Gabby and Matt's separation was one thing, but the reason for that separation really hurt. Which brings us to the next tragic moment, when Gabby and Matt's child died. What did Matt and Gabby's marriage come to an end because of? It wasn't losing Louis or cheating, it was that Gabby couldn't have children. She was going to give birth even if it meant putting her life in danger. Matt was against it and suggested that they adopt instead, but Gabby said no because she remembered what the couple had to go through with Louis. Gabby was never the same after she lost the baby, and neither was their marriage. Gabby's storyline ended perfectly this way, since she would later leave Matt and move to Puerto Rico. Remember how I mentioned an adopted child before? It's because it made for another heartbreaking scene on the show, baby Louis's death. There was one thing this couple hadn't thought about: his real parent. Louis's real father didn't know that Louis was alive. When he did, he went looking for his son. Gabby and Matt were ready to risk everything, but in the end, the couple knew they couldn't do that to the father, his family, and Louis. This next death, though, was the first time one of House 51's main characters died. That made it an incredibly heartbreaking moment on the show, when Shay died. Even though Shay was only on the show for a short time, she was the show's heart and soul. She was the only person who could yell 1 minute and then hug 2 seconds later like nothing had happened. But the fact that she was close to Severide made her death so hard to deal with. They were more than just co-workers, they lived together and were best friends. Her death set the tone for a show that seemed to be about a family. When a major character dies, it's always hard to understand, but Shay did what she always did. She saved a life. Everyone knows this next scene, just like Shay's death.
Shay, we're gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay.
It was equally heartbreaking. It's Otis's last words. At the end of season 7, Otis and the rest of the squad were trapped inside a building that was on fire. Even though Otis was burned, we thought he'd be okay. I mean, he's been shot and they said he probably wouldn't walk again, but he still made it back to the truck. It was hard to see Otis in a hospital bed, but it was even worse to see Joe Cruz by his side. Since the rest of House 51 was in the waiting room, it made sense that the saddest moment happened between the two brothers. When Joe told him that his friend was dead, Otis said, "Brother, I will always be with you." That's all for the most heartbreaking scenes from Chicago Fire ranked.